Dear audience friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's get started.
This is the story of what happened between an electrician and me. It all began in the sunny city of Madrid, where I, Lucia, a young and adventurous girl, reside in a cozy apartment in the heart of the city. I am in a relationship with Alejandro, a wonderful man who always has a welcoming smile on his face. Despite his sometimes boring office job, he always finds time to be with me, and our life together has become an exciting routine. Our mornings are filled with rushing to get ready for the day ahead, followed by exchanging cheesy messages and funny photos throughout the day. Sometimes, we even meet up for lunch in a cozy corner of the city. Our nights are typically spent enjoying home-cooked dinners and movie marathons, cuddled up on the couch. However, one day, everything changed. On an ordinary day with clear skies, Alejandro went to work while I stayed home, looking forward to a quiet day alone. But just as I was about to start my personal series marathon, the power suddenly went out, plunging my apartment into darkness. What was initially excitement turned into confusion and a hint of fear. At first, I thought it would be a small power outage that would be quickly resolved, so I waited. However, as time passed, the light remained absent, leaving me feeling alone and helpless. I contemplated calling Alejandro to inform him of the situation, but I didn't want to disturb him during an important meeting or appear overly dramatic about a simple power outage. So there I was, in the middle of my dark apartment, feeling lost. The TV was off, my phone was almost out of battery, and the silence felt overwhelming. In that moment, I realized how lonely I felt without Alejandro's presence and our shared understanding. Considering waiting for Alejandro to return from work, I hesitated. However, impatience got the better of me. I was curious to know what was happening and didn't want to spend hours in the eerie darkness. My apartment was starting to feel creepy. So, I took out my phone and searched for a 24-hour electrician on Google. After browsing through several results and reading some reviews, I dialed one of the numbers. After a brief wait, a friendly voice on the other end answered, asking how they could assist me. Feeling a bit silly for calling an electrician for a simple power outage, I quickly explained the situation. Surprisingly, the person on the phone didn't seem surprised at all. They provided an estimate of the cost and assured me that someone would be sent as soon as possible. Hanging up the phone, I felt a sense of accomplishment and relief, knowing that the problem would soon be resolved. As I waited for the electrician to arrive, time seemed to crawl by. I repeatedly checked the clock, wondering how much longer I would have to endure the uncomfortable darkness. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I received a call. It was Marco, the electrician, informing me that he was on his way to my place. I thanked him and quickly tidied up my apartment, not wanting him to think I lived in a messy environment. A few minutes later, I heard the doorbell ring and eagerly rushed to open the door. There stood Marco, wearing a casual outfit with a tool in his hands. He had a tall stature and a captivating smile that seemed to brighten the room, even in the absence of light. His appearance surprised me, as he resembled the typical electrician from a movie. Introducing himself as Marco, he asked about the electrical problem with a light-hearted laugh, as if he was excited to tackle the challenge. I led him to the area where the electrical panel was located, and he began working his magic. As he worked, we engaged in a friendly conversation, exchanging anecdotes about his job and his journey to becoming an electrician. Each story was filled with enthusiasm and humor, making me laugh and reaffirming my impulsive decision to call for professional help. Amidst the darkness, our conversations became increasingly intriguing. Marco's relaxed attitude and sense of humor intrigued me. He was not the stereotypical boring electrician who only talked about technical details. Instead, he was someone who could discuss a wide range of topics, from movies to travels and even wild theories about the universe. Every story he shared captivated me, and I realized that the unexpected power outage wasn't entirely bad. As we continued talking, I felt an unusual connection with Marco. It was as if our thoughts were aligning in some mysterious way. Our laughter felt like more than just words, it was a shared understanding. At one point, while Marco was occupied with checking some wires, I couldn't resist asking about his love life. There was a mischievous tone in my voice as I inquired if he was in a relationship. After a brief pause, Marco responded playfully, admitting that he was currently single. His words carried a flirty undertone, leaving me intrigued. I sensed that there was more to his response, something he wasn't sharing. My mind started to wander, drawn to the mystery surrounding Marco. It felt like I was part of a romantic and thrilling novel, and I couldn't help but desire to uncover more. Our conversations took a more provocative turn, exploring bolder topics and playing with subtle hints. We delved into discussions about past relationships and intimate situations, testing the boundaries of our connection. Marco's relaxed demeanor and seductive undertones made it clear that he was flirting with me. I found myself reciprocating, caught up in the excitement and temptation of the moment. However, I knew I had to put a stop to it before things went too far. I was in a committed relationship with Alejandro, and I couldn't afford to jeopardize what we had. Despite the intense attraction between Marco and me, I made the decision to resist the temptation and maintain my loyalty to Alejandro. When Marco announced that he had fixed the electrical problem, the light returned to my apartment, illuminating the tension that still lingered between us. He wore a victorious smile as he assured me that I no longer had to worry about the darkness. I laughed nervously, feeling a mixture of relief and disorientation due to Marco's seductive presence. Just as our lips were about to meet in a passionate kiss, the doorbell interrupted us, jolting us out of our trance. We quickly pulled apart, both of us breathing heavily. It was a neighbor checking if everything was okay due to the power outage. I reassured her that an electrician had resolved the issue, and she left. Closing the door, I felt a mix of relief and disappointment, realizing that I had made the right decision by stopping things before they went too far. Marco and I exchanged a meaningful look, both of us holding back our emotions. It was clear that neither of us wanted it to end there. He bid me farewell and left, leaving me alone in my apartment, my heart still racing uncontrollably. I sank onto the sofa, contemplating what had just happened and feeling emotionally drained. In the following days, I tried to get back to normal with Alejandro, acting as if nothing had occurred. I acknowledged my mistake and vowed never to let it happen again. I cherished my relationship with Alejandro and didn't want to jeopardize it. However, thoughts of Marco continued to haunt me. Whenever I closed my eyes, his face appeared, reminding me of the passionate moment we had shared. One afternoon, a message from Marco appeared on my phone, causing my heart to skip a beat. We exchanged a few messages, and I finally suggested that we meet to talk. Meeting at a cafe, the tension between us was palpable. I knew I had to be honest with him and explain that I couldn't pursue anything further. I emphasized my commitment to Alejandro and the value I placed on our relationship. Marco listened silently, his eyes filled with sadness. He understood my decision and expressed his desire not to complicate things for me. He made it clear that he would be there if I ever changed my mind, but he respected my choice. After that conversation, I felt a sense of relief for making the right decision and putting an end to the tension between us. Days passed, and I focused on rebuilding my relationship with Alejandro. I acknowledged my mistake and worked on strengthening our bond. I knew I had to take control of my life and avoid playing with fire. Although the memory of Marco lingered, I was determined not to let it consume me. Finally, I realized that I had to move forward and learn from my experience. I had made a mistake, but it was essential to grow from it and ensure that it never happened again. I valued my relationship with Alejandro and committed myself to being faithful and loyal. The incident with Marco served as a reminder of the importance of trust and the consequences of crossing boundaries. In the end, I chose to prioritize my relationship and put an end to the temptation that had consumed me. I learned the value of honesty, loyalty, and self-control. It was a lesson that would shape my future decisions and strengthen my commitment to Alejandro.